And everything is going. Alright. So, yeah, last time we played, we had finished getting this whole thing set up and working. But there were a whole lot of buffers that needed to be filled before it was properly functional. And I'm happy to report that I let it run off stream for a couple hours, and the buffers are mostly filled. Not quite, but, you know. For example, this plastic is getting there. The heavy oil residue, or not heavy oil residue, the packaged crude oil production over here is pretty much the last holdout in terms of canisters, and it's almost done. And then once that happens, the canisters will start backlogging in here. It's in the canister production itself. And basically everything is at a point where it should work. Which means there's one last factory I have to turn on, which is the iron ingot factory, which I didn't quite get to last time for whatever reason. Oh right, the reason I didn't do it last time is because it uses packaged water, and it would have, having that turned on would have made like all of the buffers take ages longer to fill. So I just had it turned off during that, but now we just need to bring iron ore from here to there, and then that should start working. So let's do that real quick as just the first thing. Alright, tractor in. Give it some fuel. And we start recording, and off we drive. We load from there. Then we go around here. Then we go up this way. And we stop in there. And we continue going around. And we get to this intersection and we hang a left. And then we get to this intersection and we do a U-turn. This is sort of a crowded intersection for whatever reason. Lots of things end up turning around here, but it's fine. Alright, and then we just go down here and in. And save this as iron ore to ingots. Right, so that the path that already exists for this name is for the old factory, so we're just going to change this as iron ore to iron ingots. Save that. Enable autopilot, hide the path nodes, and off it goes. And I just need to set that to unload. May as well set this one to unload as well. And then that should have ingot production started. So wait to see. It shouldn't take long at all for this guy to get here. And we can see the ingots going in to replace the ones that are being used. That's great. And boom, just like that, you have iron ore moving up through this. And into the factory, which I'm not sure if it's powered on or not. Let's see here. It is powered on. And obviously it's going to be manifolding and everything, but somewhere around here one of these should be working. Is there a problem why this is moving so slowly? What Mark belt is this? That's a Mark IV belt. And it is moving very slowly. Why is my Mark IV belt looking like a Mark I belt? Is there a Mark I belt on this side or something? Yes, that does seem to have been the problem. Now it is moving. Mark III speed is probably fine. Alright. Looks like everything is working. So that is iron ingot production started. Unless something else has gone wrong, but I don't think it has. And that stack should be a full... Wait, I think I'm probably going to have to do the same thing on the second floor as well. Because this is a multi-floor factory after all. So let's go up here. And let's get in here. Set you to be Mark IV speed. And there we go. And this should be a full belt of iron ingots, I think. Obviously, it'll take some time to fully get all wound up and working, but that should be a good amount of iron ingots. We'll need to improve this a lot. Like, this is just like one... This is like 1/4 of what this stop can do. Because I can bring in another 4 belts worth of iron ore. Alright. Well, pretty happy with that. And it looks like it's running at or near full capacity, which is great. And it is recycling some canisters, which is great. And that actually brings us on to the next project for today, which is redesigning this canister return. So I've realized a significant problem in how I do this. So currently, the returned canisters, here they actually come. So you can see the problem here. While the return canisters are going through, the canisters being produced aren't getting sent in. And what that means is basically, if we ever reach a point where we have enough canisters to fill the entire system so that this belt is always flowing, then new canisters will never be produced. But what that means is that my canister reserve over here, which I would like to be filling up, is instead just going to get to the point where there are technically some canisters in it, and then it'll never fill past that, because as long as it's at that point where that's always true, new canisters will never arrive in the system. Now, the short-sighted way of fixing that would be to just switch the priority on these mergers so that it prioritizes new inputs over canister returns. However, if I do that, we run into the opposite problem where we'll constantly be increasing the quantities of canisters in the system, right? And that means eventually these boxes will all fill up. And once those boxes all fill up, these truck stops all fill up. And once these truck stops are all filled up, there's nowhere for the canister returns to return the canisters to. which means, for example, this plastic factory, which outputs plastic and empty canisters, well, it won't be able to do anything with the empty canisters because it'll all be backed up, which means the plastic will stop and it'll all be a whole catastrophe. Everything will stop. However, I have sort of vaguely-ish come up with a way to fix this. I haven't properly designed it, but I think I know the general idea. So basically, the trick is we have to do both of those at the same time, depending on like different storage containers. So what I'm going to have to do is let's make a second floor
0 out of 10.
This. Thank you, Ada. I appreciate it. Thank you for the thoughtful advice. Alright, so let's get a floor up here to work on. So this probably will be enough space, but I'll give myself a little bit more just in case. Just cover up this entire thing. Alright, so we have this second floor. Now, what I'm thinking is, we have this belt, right? And this is the belt for the new production. So the new canisters being produced from the factory are coming through on this belt. Now, if we put 2 priority mergers on this belt, and they come from different things. Why is this not being straight? Why are you like this? I just want the belts to be straight and not weird and crooked. Alright, well, how about... Doesn't really matter, but I'll snap it to a conveyor pole. I guess there was some problem with this being like not quite online, but whatever. So we have this, and we have this, and so these would be our input belts from the storage. So if I have a storage container at each of these, and they are hooked into that. So okay, let's see if I can get this right. So basically, if this one is set to prioritize the center, that prioritizes new production if there is stuff in this storage container. But if this one is set to prioritize from the storage container, then as long as there's anything in this storage container, then production will stop. Right? Now, I think this should work in either order. Like, I'm not sure it matters which order I put the things in. So, and then basically what I do is I just run it past both storage containers, so it fills up this one first, and then this one. So this one will fill up. Then once it fills up, then the priority splitter will then allow it to go on and fill up that. And when that is happening, then it will cut off all of the new output, which means we'll have one full container, or however many full containers we have attached to this loop, and then an empty container here. Or does this even need to be a container? Probably should be a container just to make sure, but I think this is how we do it. So now we just have to do this for all of the 4 possible belts. Actually, so what we need to do is I'm trying to think. We need to run the new input line and like split it across the 4 belts, because like this setup we had 1 belt. Over here we have 2 active ones and a potential 2 more that I'm not using because they aren't necessary at the moment. So I need to figure out how to best scale this. And let's see. So this system currently produces 2 belts just through the 2 outputs of an industrial storage container. I don't want to do that because industrial storage containers are annoying and dumb and inconsistent. So I would really rather only have 1 belt per container if possible. Alright, so what if we... Yeah, I'm trying to think here. Like I said, I had the general idea. The precise way to implement it, I haven't worked out yet. So let's say we have a couple industrial storage containers, and these 4 industrial storage containers, we'll say these are the reserve. We want these to be filled at all times. So they're not quite aligned right, but that's fine. Now we could just do this once per container, and that would be the 4 belts. Yeah, that makes sense, right? That should work. Alright, so I'm not sure if that actually makes sense, but so the first thing we would need are the smart splitters running past these containers. 1. Actually, wait. If I have each container be its own belt, then I would need a second container for each one of the original containers. So all right, let's figure that out first, I guess. So we would have each of one of these belts going into one of these 4 containers. Right, so then if we do that, there's no need for... Well, we still need smart splitters on each of these. And I think we can do a nice little checkerboard like this. So this way they all have space, they all get to... Now this is... Alright, now these two are going to overlap. Unless this goes out and around, which I guess it could. No, it couldn't, because that would cut off its entrance point. Yeah, we pretty much just need to do this like a proper 4-belt manifold, I guess. Alternatively, what I could do is... Alright, so if I have this smart splitter there... No, that's not going to work. It pretty much just needs to be a 4-belt manifold, I think. Or... Wait, it does need to be a manifold. Does it? If the inputs are there, then we do something like that, and like that, and like that. No. And then this one is also there, and then this one is in there, and these would need to be smart splitters. So yeah, like that and like that. Then that could go, they could all feed in. This one isn't lined up properly. Goes there. That goes there. Okay. No, but this doesn't quite work, but I can fix it by making them up here. So we have that going in there. And that going in there. And then we take this bit out. So now, they're all connected in that side. And they can all be connected out this way to whatever they end up being connected to. And so then that would be the input. And then they also all get a second output, which would go off in various directions, like curving around either side of this. And then these outputs would have to go into the overflow bins. Which, since they're overflow, they're never going to be full. So I think I only need one for each side. So let's get those in. I guess that doesn't have to go down. So then these go there and there. And these go there and there. Alright, so we have these 4 internal bins, which now provide us 4 belts. And we need to figure out how to get these overflow bins into each of them. So we have one line which is the entire row. So that's the entire new production. And it needs to merge into each of these. So that is one. That is another. And I think we want these to be up tall. So I don't know how tall those have to be, but that's probably more than enough. So, wait, actually no, we need to put the mergers in first, probably, just to make sure everything lines up well. Alright, this is a bit more sophisticated planning than my usual just sort of throw everything in place. I don't normally do this stuff on stream, but here we are. So we have this priority merger there. We have this priority merger there. And that priority merger there. That priority merger there. And maybe having them staggered like this will cause this to work. So then we have our incoming belt, which let's see, it would split. Hang on, no, we need more space, pretty much. We're trying to do this all cramped, and I think the easier way to do it would actually be just to make this section quite tall and just have everything on like a single dedicated floor. So let's tear all of this apart and just do it once. And then have that on a bunch of floors. And actually, let's make a blueprint for it, maybe. That seems quite fun. And it's going to be a different sort of blueprint than I normally make, but still a blueprint. It is Blueprint City. If we're going to be doing something 4 times, then we may as well have a blueprint for it. Alright, where is the blueprint machine anyway? It's way over this way. Of course it is. By the way, how's iron production going? It is already filled up. Yep, that checks out. Not surprising. 480 iron ingots a minute is a lot of iron ingots a minute. So let's get down here to the blueprint designer and start designing a blueprint. So, the first thing we have is we have our line which is providing the new production. Then we need Actually, put the splitter down first. So we have this, and then we have that go off there. And we can upgrade that to a smart splitter by doing that. It's a fancy trick I learned about. So we can say left is any and center is overflow. So now it will prioritize outputting into this. And then here we have industrial storage container. And regular storage container. I should actually be able to make this quite compact, I think. So let's try and do that. Let's try to make this relatively small. So we have this industrial storage container. Actually, I want to move this over a little bit, just so we have space along the edges. So let's have that there, and that there. So these will be filled through some external measures. Then we have, well, then we have this belt, and this belt is going to start there and go there, I guess. No, we should put the mergers in first. So we put the mergers in. So then we have this belt, which that doesn't quite line up with the mergers. That does. It goes there. It goes through the two priority mergers. And then it goes out. And then back here, we have the main belt. So this is where the new production is. And it's going to stay untouched throughout the entire process so that we can run it past the others. Alright, and then we have that. And then we have that. And then that sticks out a little bit back there. And this, now we just need to set this up. So the industrial storage container is the first one, and new production gets priority over it, so it will fill up. Then the second one is that one, and it gets priority over the center, so it will fill up. Now we go back here, and we set up the belts feeding these two. And I think we need another smart splitter here, because I think we need a sink at the end just to make sure nothing goes too catastrophically wrong. So we get... Alright, we don't have enough space for the awesome sink in this blueprint. Just barely, it looks like. If we had shifted this whole thing over slightly, we would. It's probably fine. We probably don't need a sink. I'm going to say we don't need a sink. So then... this industrial storage container and the overflow container are then filled from this belt, which comes from the truck stop. And just have to set them to write any center overflow and let's put labels in just to say that we did. So that gets a label. To sync. And this gets a label. But instead of to sync, it's from recycling stop. And then this gets a label. And it is... hang on, wait. Paste the settings from new production. And then this gets a label which is to output stop. And then finally we label this belt as, hang on, set the settings to next stage, I guess. And get rid of a random conveyor pole that isn't needed. And we can save this blueprint designer as recycling priority storage. And save that. Clear the designer. And it's not perfect, but should be good enough. We're probably only ever going to use it these 4 times. So I'm not too worried about it. About it being perfect. Like, I could have gone through all the effort of making it automatically tiling, like my giant factory blueprint, but again, I'm only using this a couple of times, so it'll be fine without it. So let's get over there. And let's see here, where is it? It's over this way. Alright, let's get rid of these last couple of conveyor poles. And we stand over here. We find wherever it put that. Recycling priority. Alright. So I believe the inputs should be on this side because this is where the inputs come from. And that should work. Alright, so we will see if... Alright, cool, the signs do save through blueprints. That's handy. Alright, so this comes from the stop. And how many of these do I want to put in before I do anything with them? That's sort of the question. And I think the answer is going to be all four. There's no reason to do partial setups, I guess. So let's get this up here. It's not the most convenient thing in the world to build. Probably should have included a roof and walls in the blueprint. But here we are. Alright, that is that. Now we just have to put this in. Can we set this to build mode blueprint? Will that help it? Alright. If you nudge it like that, looks lined up to me. Alright, now we just build up another wall, which I guess we will build up there. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we just do all this. And that's the next floor. Is that... That's not fully square, is it? No, it's 5 by 4. Oh, the entire thing is 5 by 4. Okay, that's fine then. So let's put down number 3. And lock it in place where it approximately goes, and then give it a nice quick look. Looks right to me. I forgot to set these of any center overflow. Left any center overflow. Left any center overflow. And then that bottom floor is just what our current setup is, which doesn't do anything. So we have 1, 2, 3 of them now. Starting to get low on fuel. Let's grab some of that. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. That is that floor. Now we just put the blueprint in, and then we just have to hook this all up. Alright, it's lined up something like that, and then right up next to the edge. Alright, that's all of them. Alright, we have to set this smart splitter. Left any, center overflow. Alright, so now we just hook this belt up to that down there. And these 4 belts up to those down there. And optionally, these belts into sinks, which I doubt will be needed. And then it should work, and then we'll get to test it and see. The joy of building large, untested, rather complicated systems. Alright. So let's hop down here. And disconnect that. And take it over there. Alright. Something like that, I guess. So we need to get this set up, like, kind of precisely to do the whole conveyor lift thing. Wait, actually, I think I remember how we set conveyor lifts up well last time, which is first we did something like that. Then we put the first splitter in, which would be somewhere around there. Then we took that apart, brought this down further than it needs to go. And we have the merger there. And it looks like potentially doesn't line up quite right, but so then we take that out. And put that in. Get rid of that random conveyor pole. Take that out. We find it over there, which is remarkably hard to see, honestly. So that should start. No, it does not. It does not like it. Oh. Hello, Moderator Sans. How's it going? We are making a complicated system currently involving returning recycled canisters and making sure we have a stockpile of them, but not too many. It's weird. Currently we are struggling with the new vertical splitters and everything, which really don't want to cooperate with me, apparently. So if I take that... Right, so the problem is that this entire thing was going the wrong way to begin with. Alright, so we need to make sure that the lift is going the right way to begin with. Which means it can't be attached to that because it'll get confused. Alright, so if I just have like a random unrelated belt. Alright, no, that doesn't work. Yeah, it's certainly a thing. Okay, wait, maybe if I start up there and then come down. Yeah, that actually does exactly what I want to do. Okay. So then that connects down into that. And then we can put these in. I've just realized I haven't done this the way I intended to do it when I made the blueprint. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. But it means this blueprint does things differently than I am doing them. But that's fine. Just have to put a bunch of smart splitters on here. And then... Actually, how does this work? Is center up, I guess? Center overflow right and left any? Yeah, okay. So we have that. Center is overflow. I don't know which of these is left and right. So we're just going to set both to any. And this is apparently not a smart splitter. Invalid upgrade can't match all connections. Alright, well, I guess we just won't worry about that. It's probably fine. Alright, so the new production comes from this factory here, and it goes up this line of splitters. Then the recycle stuff gets brought in from this truck stop and gets put into this line, which first sends it into this large storage container, which only outputs onto the center line if there isn't new production coming through. So, which means that this will back up over time and fill up a lot. Then we have this one, which is... Wait, is this even right? No, wait, this whole thing is wrong, isn't it? Because... yeah, alright. I need to switch the order of these two, I think. So if I make this medium and low, and this one low and medium. Alright, now this would cut off the incoming production, and then... Alright, we're gonna try it like this. I'm pretty sure this works, because if we do it the other way, so if we had this as the one that fills up, well, there's always going to be new production coming in here, which means this is always going to buffer, which maybe is fine. Hang on, let me think. So in normal circumstances, the entire thing would be filled, and this would never output because... Wait. So in normal circumstances, this would only output up to fill the belt and take priority from this. And then, yeah, this is definitely wrong, because we want this to... Wait. My mind is just blanking. Do I need to, like, take notes or something? So, let's say that this storage container is filled, and the overflow is going into this one. So this one would flow through and cut off everything from this, and the new production. But if we then placed a new truck stop that took canisters, and this emptied a little bit, then this wouldn't get anything. And then this and the new production would both... I actually think this works. I think this works the way I designed it. And we're just gonna try and see, and if it doesn't work the way I designed it, we'll figure that out in a couple hours, I guess. Alright, so we have that hooked up to this. Now we take these apart, and each of these gets attached to one of these levels. And I don't want that, because that's just gonna... Wait, no, that actually is fine, because this is the other one. So then this goes up here. And is too steep, so we'll use a... not a ladder, a conveyor lift. So that comes up here. And in there, I guess. It can be straight if it wants. Alright, then we go up here. And we grab a conveyor lift from there. And actually, I don't want this to be straight because it's in the way. So if we make this a curve, then it won't be in the way, probably. Correct. Alright. So then that is hooked up there. Then we bring this up here. And attach that in. And finally, we bring this up to this floor. And we attach it in. Alright, so all the inputs are now attached. And now the last step is we take these outputs and we collect them up and then bring them over to this, which we're going to have to tear apart. So, right, this output doesn't actually do anything. This is the output that we actually want. It's a Mark IV belt. So we curve these, and we bring them all over to this edge approximately. And then they come across down here onto the side of this building over here. And the curves look really weird, but alright. And then finally we take this one. Which needs to go there, and then curve across. Alright, now we need to tear all of this junk out and replace it with the new system. Not the fuel line, gotta be careful to avoid dismantling that one. All the rest of this needs to go, including that little bit there. Okay, now we take these along the side of the building. And bring that down a little bit as well. Alright, then come down here. We attach this into there. Attach this next one into there. And we're going to have to do some adjusting to make clipping not happen. Then this next one just continues around the corner. Alright. Then this one also continues around the corner. And then this goes across there. And then down a little bit. And into there. Then this one comes along a little bit further. And down to about the same. And then not Mark 3 belts, Mark 4 belts. And that should be everything. And why is this going so slow? Somewhere in here there's a Mark 1 something or other. Probably this conveyor lift, if I had to guess. Yep. Alright, you get to be Mark 3. Alright. So, is this working? It's kind of hard to tell at the moment because this is like half of this is backlogged, the other half isn't. So the bottom two are just feeding into this one, which is literally not used for anything. Like this is just an extra truck stop for the future. So obviously that's just going to be backlogged, sitting there doing nothing. And I've just realized I may have attached the wrong belts to the wrong canister returns. So this is right, that was something part of the old system that we got rid of. So I believe this left one is the only one that actually does anything. Alright, we have concocted a new problem for ourselves, which is that it now matters which belts go where. So we need to make sure that these two should go all the way up to the top, I think, not these two. Because these are the two that are actually being used. So, yeah, this is... like, at this point, we basically don't have a canister return. So let's tear these apart. And that one goes there. This one goes a little bit further up. And then goes in there. This one goes up here. and then goes in there. And then this last one goes all the way up to the top. And goes in there. So now we have that. We just need to move everything that wound up in the first couple levels. Technically don't need to do this. Like, it would sort itself out in theory with the new production, but seems wasteful. Alright, so then we throw that in there, and we'll throw the rest up here. It doesn't really matter, like, these two are feeding into the same truck stop, so it doesn't really matter which one we put it into, but whatever. Alright, so now, hopefully that will get everything working. And it's going to be hard to tell because we don't have enough canisters in this system to actually use like any of these canister returns at the moment. But we might be close. Yeah, we are getting close. That truck stop is filling up. And yeah. So that truck stop is filling up, which means eventually this whole system will start filling up, and then we'll be able to see if it's working or not. As far as things go right now, it looks like the canisters are all properly being returned. Although, that doesn't look like the speed of a Mark IV belt. Is it? Let's hop on and see. It definitely is not. Somewhere along here, it downgrades to a Mark III belt, and you can tell that because I'm passing the canisters. Yeah, right here at the end, that was set to Mark III for some reason. And now it's set to Mark IV. Alright. So now, yeah, as long as this is empty, we're always going to be prioritizing new production over recycling. Yeah, so the new production gets to go through unimpeded, even though there is a good amount there. But if this had canisters in it, it would be a different story. So I believe that this works. And that's a nice little project. It doesn't technically, it's not producing anything, but it is a neat little thing you can do with priority mergers. I don't think this is possible without them. Alright, so what is next? The next thing we should do is probably just to get some more factories going. So we have our iron ingot factory, which is that tall one, I believe. So that tall one produces iron ingots, and a fair amount of them, but we're currently not using them for anything. So the next step is going to be plates or something. I don't know. So I could just ignore things that I already have production for, like the trivial things that I have way back down in my first base. I don't necessarily need to produce them here. I would want to remake all of the things that are being made in the old factory over there, because that place is a mess and I want to completely decommission it. Like, I just want to tear this whole thing apart and not worry about it. So I guess that's what we'll do next. Let's start remaking some of the stuff that's in here. And any particular order I want to do that in. Let's just start from the first thing and move on. So this is making reinforced plates. And it only needs iron. So let's make a Mark II blueprint for reinforced plates. And we'll see if we can use any fancy alternate recipes to make it easier as well. So we load up our... Oh, this is the wrong blueprint designer. This is the Mark I blueprint designer, which I should probably just tear down at some point, because it's going to keep confusing me when I do things like that. Alright. So this is the box that I use, and in theory, the belts should auto-connect from one box to the next, so it can tile upwards infinitely. In practice, I think they made a patch which broke it, but I think that breaking it was a bug, so I think they'll probably fix it again, so I'm not going to change this. Alright, so reinforced iron plates. How do you make them? Let's pull up this. So you can make them with screws, you can make them with wire, or you can make them with rubber. So, let's see. The rubber recipe is obviously going to be more efficient in terms of iron. Let's do the math to see which is more efficient. I can get rid of those notes, I don't need them anymore. Basic recipe makes one plate for equals one rip equals 6 plates and 12 screws. So, the best we could do for plates is... Actually, I have another alternate recipe for plates, right? But that requires plastic. Oh, I actually have bolted iron plates as well. Take that and just see if it is better. I don't think it is, but you never know. Alright, so we don't have any good alternate recipes. I don't know. Let's see. So for iron plates, we don't have any good alternate recipes. We could do steel cast plates, I guess, but that would require coal. Or, yeah, so we could do petroleum coke, but that seems very inefficient. It uses oil. So we could do steel cast plates, which turns it to 2 ingots to 3 steel ingots. And then 3 steel ingots would make a lot of plates. Steel cast plates might be efficient enough to be worth using. Maybe. So let's see. So one rip is 6 plates. So that would be 2 ingots and 2 steel. 6 plates equals 2 iron, 2 steel. And then, I'm already in this, 2 steel equals what it would be like 1.3 iron, 1.3 coal. So this side of things would be 3.3 iron ingots, 1.3 coal, if I'm doing the math right, which I think I am. And then the screws. Actually, let's look at the alternate for plates first. So the alternate for plates would be 6 plates would be 9 ingots. That's literally 3 times as much. Alright, I think we're doing steel cast plates if we use this recipe. Alright. So then screws are 1 rod for 4, and I believe so that would be 1 ingot for 1. So this would be 1 ingot for 4. So these are equivalent efficiency-wise. This is just easier. So 12 screws would be screws equals like 3 ingots, or if we say we want to make 12, 0.231 steel beams, 0.231 steel beams, and steel beams could be made for approximately 1 steel ingot, 0.231 steel beams equals approximately 1 steel ingot, and 1 steel ingot is like 2/3 of an iron ingot and 2/3 of a coal. Two-thirds iron plus 2/3 coal. So then the 12 screws would be 2/3 iron and 2/3 coal. That would just be all. So it would wind up being like 4 iron, 2 coal. Alright, so base recipe, 1 rip is 4 iron and 2 coal. And I believe that would be the best we could do as far as that is concerned. Now, stitched iron plates. Actually, first of all, bolted iron plates is 3 times as many plates for 3 times as many reinforced plates, but more than 3 times as many screws. So that is just purely a space-saving measure, I guess. So we can ignore it. Alright, then stitched iron plates would be if we wanted 1, this is because we're worried about how efficient it is, not how fast it is at the moment. It would be 3.3 1 rip equals 3 1/3 plates and 6 2/3 wire. Not 2/4, 2/3. Alright, so 3 1/3 plates is... Right, we have to go down this whole thing again. Would be 3.333 would be 1.1 ingots, 1.1 iron, 1.1 steel. And the steel would be, using solid steel, would be 0.741 ingots, 0.741 coal. Alright, and then, so that would be the plate side of things, and then for the wire, so the plates would be that, which would wind up at like 2.8 ingots and 0.74 iron. And then the wire would be, using the iron wire recipe, we need 6 2/3, 6.66666, would be just 3.704 ingots. Wire equals 3.704 ingots. So then the final result of this would be 2.8-ish, 2.85-ish iron plus 3.7-ish iron. So we'd be looking at like 6 or 7 iron. And then, but then half as much coal. But I don't think half as much coal is a good enough justification. So we're going to use the basic recipe for this then. And then the question is, how much of this can we do in one spot? So we have the ingots.
Hard work pays off.
We need a foundry to make solid steel ingots, and that is going to make a whole lot. Then we take the solid steel ingots and remaining iron ingots and we assemble them into... Oh, is that also in a foundry? I think that might also be in a foundry. Foundry them into steel cast plates. And then we take the plates and what were we doing for screws? We were also using steel beams for screws. So then we construct some into steel beams. And was there any better recipe for steel beams? No, just the 4-to-1 recipe. So then we construct some of them into steel beams, and then we construct some of those beams into screws, and then we take the plates and the screws and we make reinforced plates. I think we can do this all in one location. Because, like, this is just... Like, all of these are pretty fast recipes, too. Alright, so how much do we actually need for an assembler? Let's get up to... Oh, we were already on the second floor. So let's get down to this floor and put an assembler in and see... Yeah, so bolted iron plate is just blatantly less efficient. Adhered iron plate needs rubber, which I don't want to do. So reinforced iron plate, just the basic recipe. So we need 30 iron plates and 60 screws to make 5. Is that feasible? So we need 30 iron plates and 60 screws. And if that's incredibly feasible, I might even use the bolted recipe, like if it comes down to it and we have like way too much screws. So 30 iron plates. Yeah, that would just be a single foundry here, even underclocked. 60 screws would be this underclocked up to 1 billion. And we would need 1.154 steel beams. 154. Which means we would need 4.6 steel ingots from that. So we would need 15 steel ingots. And this produces 60. Yeah, this is so incredibly quick that I'll use the bolted recipe just to save space, save the number of things. And I guess I should confirm that that is possible first. Alright, so set this to bolted iron plates. Now we need 90 plates, 250 screws. And it is 3 times as fast, which is why you would ever want to do that. Alright, so 250 screws. Let's work backwards from that one. 250 per minute would be 4.8 steel beams a minute. 4.8 steel beams a minute. Technically 4.808, not that it matters. Would be 19.232 steel ingots a minute. We would need to either overclock this or get another cast plate foundry to get that up to 90. And we would need 30 steel there, 19 there, so 50 steel. Yeah, this should be possible. It shouldn't even be all that difficult. So let's get this set up then. Input 1 is iron ingots. Input 2 is coal. So this foundry would need to make... how much did I say it needed to make? I've already forgotten. 30 steel there. 49.232. 49.232 would be hardly any iron, hardly any coal. Cool. And then we need to take this steel and feed it into 2 foundries and a constructor. And also take some spare iron and do the same thing. So we need this to be a splitter. Alright, let's move this back a little bit to give more space. So something like that. Means there's not much space on this side, but we shouldn't need much space on that side. Alright, so we get our splitter in. And I think we want the splitter on this side, so we actually want this to be the iron and this to be the coal, because that gets the iron out easier. So that goes there. So now we have the steel here, the iron here. So let's make our 2 foundries and a constructor. No, it'll be easier for the constructor to be on the right. So, because that's where the steel is, and the constructor only uses steel. Alright, so we have these 2 foundries. This makes solid steel at like 50-ish. Worry about the details later. And then this is leftover iron. Okay. Is there any way I can... Alright. No, I just need to split this one again. To go into that, where it makes steel cast plates. And I can feed that there. So that's the iron to the steel cast plates. Is that a belt? Yes, it is. Then we need the steel, which gets split there past this. So then that gets some. Then we need another splitter here. That gets some. And then this needs to go up. And then over. We need to get enough space for this for it to turn around. Alright, something like that. And then down there. Alright, so that means we have 90 iron plates. And this is making steel beams. How many steel beams we'll figure out in a moment. So the next thing we need to do is take these foundries, merge them together, and they can be nice, neat, straight lines, and then the foundries go down into a floor hole. That needs to be a Mark II belt because it's going to be 90 iron plates, 45 from each. Alright, now we take these steel beams and we put them into just directly into another constructor with no funny business needed. And this constructor makes steel screws and makes 250 of them, which means we need 4.808 steel beams. which we have 30 steel ingots. So it's 49.232 is the exact value here, 49.232. Alright, and then the total number of iron ingots is 32 plus 30, so it's a nice round 62 iron ingots. Thank you, very cool. Which means that this needs to be Mark II. That should be Mark IV. That should be Mark IV for scaling reasons. But then the amount of coal is just going to be that 32, so that's fine. And then we just take coal, and it needs to be Mark III to handle 250 screws. And then we drop down, we build our assembler, and so we just need to get this. I can't remember which is which, so they're both going to be Mark IIIs. On this side, at least. So these can wrap around the ceiling over to this side. And at this point, they can drop down. And in you go. And out there, and in. And then we have that, which needs to go up, preferably somewhere nice and convenient, like there. And then that goes in. And then we have to hook that up to the output, and all will be done. So this gets that, and in there, and that is that. Reinforced iron plates, now with steel. And it is 15 per minute. So 15 rip per minute uses 32.8 coal, 33 coal, 63 iron ingots. And we have a massive thing producing iron ingots, so there's no need to worry about that. So now we can just drop down here and save this as reinforced iron plates V2. And outputs 15 rip per minute, uses 33 coal, 63 iron ingots. And we save that blueprint. We clear the blueprint designer and manage to not crash the game. It's always a good sign. So now, the next thing we need to do is actually bother to supply coal into the city, which is something that I have not done. It should be trivial, assuming there's coal nearby. Which I think might be a problem, but when I'm saying nearby, I'm meaning nearby in terms of like train routes, so it should be fine. Let's just get over here, I guess, and do a fun little coal scan. Alright, coal. Why are some of these train stations yellow? Yellow is not a color I normally associate with train stations. In fact, like half of them are yellow. Half of them aren't yellow. Alright, I don't know what that's about, but I got distracted and forgot where the coal was. Pretty sure there was a nearby patch that like I was using for coal generators, which are no longer needed. So let's see, we had all of those up there, which... Alright, is that... Really? There's not... I could have sworn there was like a giant pure patch like up here somewhere that I was using for my coal generators. Apparently not. So we will just mark down like there-ish. And now we get to do more train stuff. Oh boy, I do love me some train stuff. I guess before I do that, I will check up on this. See how things are going here. I see a whole bunch of stationary belts. That's probably not good. So that's filled up. That's obviously filled up. We're not using it for anything. Alright. Then we go up here. And if we go up to the top two levels, this is starting to fill up, but somewhat concerningly, why is none of this moving? I feel like it should be moving. It definitely... Let's see. So, I mean, that's filled up, right? So... I don't know. I guess these are fine. So we're not accepting any new input at the moment. Which is a bit weird. Yeah, why is nothing going on down here? Like I feel like I'm in a ghost town. Alright, here comes a vehicle. It's gonna take a batch. I guess we're just using very little, but I don't know, man. Seems weird to me. And now we are accepting new inputs. So let's see. To recap, if this fills up all the way, then if this fills up all the way, then the whole thing... Yes, this is filling up even more. If this fills entirely, then this one will start filling, and if this one starts filling, then it hogs the entire output, which means we won't produce any more So it should be fine. But I'm just worried about this whole thing backlogging. But it probably shouldn't. Like, the only way more new canisters are getting into this system is through the new production. Like, everything here is already in the system and has been in the system for a while. So as long as this works, we should be... As long as this works the way I think it does, we should be fine. Now let's just make a change for the sake of getting things moving. I actually think I know what's happened, which is that the plastic has finally maxed out. Like, this is 100% full. Is this output over here also 100% full? No. It's down to 43 items a minute. Is plastic producing at the proper speed? Let's take a peek. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. Alright, so plastic is producing at its proper rate, and it's just taking a long time. So one way to get things moving again would be to put a sink on the iron ingots supply so that they'll always produce no matter how much extra we have. So let's do that. That's basically what this space here is for. So we can put that there. So we can put a sink up here, and then we could also have a dimensional storage up here if it were something other than iron ingots. It is not something other than iron ingots. So let's just... Actually, is there a way of grabbing it from inside this? Not especially. Actually, yes, there is. Which of these is actually accepting it? It's this one. This tiny little one here. Okay. But it doesn't matter because it actually goes all the way through and around to all of them. But let's... Okay, yeah. Putting a splitter on that one is going to be hard. We can put a splitter on this one back here. And getting the floor hole in is going to be a pain, but we can just put that there. And no, it needs to be even further out of the way. So I'll have it like all the way over here even. That should be more than enough space. Not straight or curved, just have it on default. And then replace this splitter with a smart splitter. So center is any, right is overflow. And then put that in there. We put our awesome sink just somewhere in there. And attach it in. Why? Why did the awesome sink go in backwards? I don't think I put the awesome sink in backwards. Alright. I did it right that time. So now I just need to find a power pole. And this whole thing should be running at max speed. Alright, that's that. Now I notice a distinct lack of maximum possible iron ingots on this line, which I'm pretty sure is supposed to be 480 ingots a minute. Right? So, I mean, they're down at, like, tiny percentages, which makes it even more suspicious. Like, they should be overflowed and pushing things out like crazy. And see, that is 270-ish. The top floor seems to not be functioning. Let's go and check out what's happening up there. If I can find the exit in this freaking place. Back around here. Alright, so let's hover up to the next floor. Alright, this is the access floor, and yeah, it's definitely not moving at all. And why is that? There's no water. Why is there no water? Because there's a billion empty canisters piled up. Why are there a billion empty canisters piled up? Because... is that not getting sent down properly? Yep, it is indeed not getting sent down properly. Alright, so let's take that out, and that out with it. And just try replacing it. Right, so that needs to be that way. Alright, why is this output not working at all? So we have to go back up to the top floor and investigate that. So everything looks fine up till, like, there. And if I do that, it's still messed up. Alright, what if I take that entire floor hole out and rebuild it? And then we drop down into here. Wait, there's a floor in between that and this. So it's definitely not that being the problem. It could be that the problem is in here. Try that. Then that fills up with canisters down to there. And then that starts sending canisters down. Lovely. And the iron is also going down, so that's working as well. Don't know why we had to do that, but there we go. And yeah, this should just be getting all warmed up. Now that it has a source of water, it should be running. Alright. Iron production is now probably going well enough. I could have sworn it was working better than 50% just like earlier today. Like right near the start of the stream, I feel like it was definitely working the top floor. But now this is still a bit hiccupy, but hopefully it will continue to run with no problems. And the important thing is now we have another relatively significant usage of canisters, which means the whole factory should be running now. Like, all those canisters being used, like, a whole bunch of water needs to be refilled, and everything should pick up again. Alright, still not looking like 100%, but it's looking very, very close. Just a couple gaps every so often. And then if we head around here and check on the canister return, still looking fine. Obviously, still have a lot to go before these storage containers start to fill up. Yeah, they're only just getting started. Alright. So now let's go and grab the coal, which I believe was just down there. So scan for coal. We're really quite close to it from here. Also, those train stations that were yellow are no longer yellow. Why is that? I have no clue. Wait, those are both impure. One of those says temp. One of those ones over there is pure. Let's do that. Alright, so let's head down. Beneath all of this, we have our train network, which is providing the iron and what else? There's something else that we're bringing in, right? Oil, right? So, this is the train network level. And if we just swap to the train hotbar and start just heading off this way, we should eventually encounter some nice juicy coal, which we can use to start making steel. Don't mind that factory under us. It uses a whole bunch of copper to achieve effectively nothing. It makes a bunch of wires that immediately sinks it. It was just a test for load balancing, basically. Alright, keep on moving this along. The coal did look like it was pretty much directly east on the scanner, so we're gonna head this way. And I think it was like down by the coast. So now that we're in the general vicinity, let's take a scan. Ah, we did not need to take a scan. It was 20 millimeters beneath us, a normal and a pure. That's probably enough. Like, I don't really use much coal. I try to convert to iron-based recipes when I can handle it, but... yeah, let's make the platform here for 5 is good for starters. And we need a train station, which I made it 5, but it's not on center, so do there, so that we can use this nice thing that I've been dragging along here as the foundations for the train tracks. And so then this is the coal source. And how much coal do we realistically need? I think I'm only going to put it in 2 freight platforms here, just because, like, I normally do 3, but I never even, like, make use of the 3rd, really. It's just kind of extra work. And for coal, I'm not expecting to use mass quantities of it pretty much at any point. Like, if we... no, not scan. If we search coal... where's my mouse? There it is. What is the coal even used for? Steel, black powder, and, like, a bunch of alternate recipes. And we don't need much steel. So it's probably fine. It's probably fine to have very little coal. Alright, let's get a ladder down there. So that we can access the coal. I've placed a ladder somewhere, I'm not sure where. I heard it build, but it certainly wasn't directly beneath me. So we keep on going down. And we keep on going down. Alright. And we're here. Alright, that's a minor mark 2. That's a minor mark 2. And how much coal is this? It's 120 off of the normal. And 240 off of the pure. I mean, let's overclock this to 480 and 300, because, you know, may as well get all of the coal we can from this spot while we're here. Alright, so we connect these with a power line. And then we start bringing in the conveyor lifts. Alright, and now let's bring the power line up, and then we'll connect the conveyor lifts the rest of the way. Okay, we can't really get a good spot on it from here, but up we go, and... wire is too long. Please. Alright. We have the wire directly underneath the floor there. It was apparently like a millimeter too long. Alright, then up there. And then we connect it into the train. So this coal source, we can actually label how much it is. It's... what, 780? Which isn't even a full cart, but it should be a relatively huge amount of coal for actual, like, use. So let's get a nice angle on these lifts. And continue bringing them up. And then belts to get them the last little bit. Alright, I don't know what the difference is between those two, where that one of them was too steep and the other wasn't. This actually is going to be a bit in the way of where my trains might want to go. It also looks very messy. So let's take that apart. And build out this side is the side with the what's it called, outputs and stuff over here. So this is going to be the main one. Yeah, actually we don't even need the second station for this. Like just the one is enough, at least for here. Alright, so then that, and that, and then they connect up. And now we just need to get those conveyor lifts into those floor holes, which is not going to be easy because they're facing like the exact opposite way, but we can work something out. Alright, so now they're facing like approximately the right way. We can put those in and see if these connect up. They do. At least it looks like they do. Yeah, they definitely do. Alright, cool. So that is all. Now we just have to make a station on the home side of things and then hook the two up. So let's head on over here. And the home station, I will make 3 freight platforms. I'm not going to use all 3. I'm only going to use the first to begin with. But if by some chance we have to upgrade it in the future, I want to have that option. Alright. And it can be like here. I don't use those anymore. I'm going to build around them for the moment, just to be sure. Alright. So that should in principle be wide enough for a train stop. And we can put it just like here, I guess. Is the farthest in this way it'll go. And set this as coal supplier. Alright, now we put our 1, 2. This needs to be a little bit longer. And 3 freight platforms, which is going to be overkill for this, but I don't want to like get stuck and not be able to expand it later. So there we go. Now we just run the railway along, and we're going to have to loop them around, of course, so that it can actually do anything with this railway. I could have obviously always used like double-headed trains, but I don't really like double-headed trains. I don't know. I think they can make things more complicated in the long term if you want to expand. Alright, so almost there. Stop that one there. And then... Why would you do that? Why would that be the thing that you do? Why can't you just snap into the train station that I obviously want you to snap into? Alright. So that's that. Now this loops around this way. And give it some space. And then snaps in like that. And then we have to do the same thing on the other side. And then hook that up to power, and then put the train in, and we'll be all good to go. By the way, the fact that you can put train intersections anywhere without having to, like, dismantle stuff and put it back in is great. Like, secretly one of the better improvements in 1.1. Alright. And this loops around there. And comes along this way. And don't fall off. Then we have to do the last bit of snapping from this side. Just like so. Alright. Now we hook this up to a power pole, which is over here somewhere. Why is that a Mark 1 power pole? Okay, all these are Mark 1 power poles, so I guess I can't complain. But there we go. Now all of that is attached up. And I really need to upgrade my power more in the near future. Alright, then let's see, we set this aside to unload, of course. And I guess I'll put the train on. Locomotive, freight car, and add the 2 stations onto the timetable, and off you go. Alright, so now we take this, and we're going to have to make we're going to have to go up and make a coal stop on the street up here somewhere, which will be this side, obviously. So let's expand this road out. And the floor tile is centered here. And the truck stop snaps to the blueprint. And it doesn't really matter which way it faces. I guess it'd be mildly more convenient for it to face this way. Oh, I just got a notification for Yago's post regarding Gura's announcement. I wonder if some secret controversy. Nah, probably not. Alright, so then this will be the coal stop. So let's set, I believe I set outputs as red. So let's configure this billboard. Please let me land on it. Thank you. Output coal. And icon coal. Control C, Control V, and Control V, and Control V. Alright, this is now labeled as a place where you can get coal. And the only thing left for this would be to actually attach this up to the coal trains. So let's get floor hole and let's see, probably, oh, this is off center. Yeah, it's off center. All right, that's fine. There's some room for error in these things. Like, they don't always match up perfectly to the road anyway. Is it like inset into the ground any? It totally is. Why are you like this? Right, now I have to get rid of all of that and try again. And it seems to have worked properly this time. Alright. And this shouldn't be foundation, it should be concrete. That is how we get out of these things, is with a loop of concrete around them. Alright, and then we are also going to need an intersection over here to turn around at, because this is now the end of the road. Alright, and now we have to repaste all of those settings. And get over here. And repaste it there. Alright, now those signs are hovering, and they're slightly off-centered. Please. That is because the blueprint I attached them to I took down. So we'll just have to replace them. And paste them again. Alright. We finally got it right. Now we can come down here and put in our floor holes, which we'll just need to line up to the coal output, which should be plenty of coal in here. Yep, there sure is. Alright, then this comes down. And this comes down. And this comes out. And this comes out. Alright, so now we have two... but see, there's no way of knowing for certain which one the coal will be prioritized into, because these things are annoying. But I think I can fix that with just some good old-fashioned load balancing. So we have a splitter there. Actually, make that a smart splitter. Then this continues on past it and receives a priority merger. Alright, so then those get attached, and this should hang on, thinking. So if this prioritizes filling up the right path, but this prioritizes taking, so then this will receive everything from this belt will go along here, and then everything from this belt enough to fill up this will go there, and then the remains will go on here. So now we know that the right belt is the priority and the left belt is secondary. But let's see. So we have that. Then I would like to evenly distribute between the two of them, which would entail, hang on, let's get some more space for this. So if we split each of them in half and then recombine the halves with each other, that should work and should make this actually not even necessary, probably. So we can have both of the splitters there. And then that outputs there, and this outputs there, and there. So then we put in a merger, which takes those two and moves them on. Then we have a merger that we're actually running out of space a little bit. Not power tower platform, no. I don't want to build that. Then we have a merger that combines these two. And this can go directly up there. Is there any way to make it gain some height in, like, around here? So that, just so that it doesn't clip on my nice fancy merging recombination thing. Alright. I believe we have done it. And we now have access to a steady supply of coal in the city. And it is 4:24. Oh, I need to power this on. So let's find us a power pole somewhere. There's one. Too long though. So we're put that there. And then in. Alright. So that is all that. Now we need to take coal and iron ingots and use them both for our fancy new reinforced iron plate factory, which I guess we can put right here next to the coal, but so I guess this one there's no real need to put it on a truck, like it's literally right here. So let's have a floor tile. 1, 2, 3. It goes there. Then we have foundation and a floor tile that goes there. And then this one will be the other truck stop. goes there. And in case industrial beam supplies are going to always be low. But this truck stop just takes in iron ingots. So let's grab this one, configure it. It's already set to the right icon. Input iron ingots. Then we Control C, and we hop over here and Control V, and we have that. So we also have to make this exist so that the truck can get out. Oh wait, actually this is a road. So we'll just build over that. And alright, mistakes have been made, but it's fine. We just need to put those markings back on. Straight arrow pattern. And, oh, there's one more. Alright. Road made. And let's expand this road out another ways, and then put an intersection on it. Alright, and then in this space in between that and that, we can have our reinforced iron plate factory. So let's go blueprints, reinforced iron plates V2, and everything is getting all mixed up in the folders, by the way. I'm probably just gonna fix that off stream at some point. I don't think it would make for great content, me just fiddling with folders. Alright. Place that in. And now we just have to remember coal on the right, ingots on the left. Did I ever output the reinforced iron plates? I did. Good for me. I frequently forget that. Oh, I know what I did forget, though. I didn't put power lines in there, so I'm going to have to do that. Alright, let's get in there with some power poles. Alright, there's one. Then we have to get up onto the second floor entrance and start connecting all of these guys up. And a couple more. Alright, is that everything? I believe that is everything. Attached to power. Now we just have to hook this up to a power pole somewhere outside. And so grab that. Hook that up to that. And we should have seen another little bump. Yep. Alright. What are these doing? Did I not put... Huh? Am I going crazy? I could have sworn I put coal into these. Was that before I had to tear it apart and redo it? Oh, no. I just got them to here. I didn't put them in... I didn't get the last bit of the way. some would say the most important step in the transportation is actually getting them onto the trucks. Alright. To transportation. There we go. And it's now filling up with coal. Lovely. Why are you not filling up with coal? Alright. Right. I forgot it has to do that thing where it fills up all the belts past the truck stop first. Alright. I do also need... I just realized... another... Oh wait, no, I have this. So this is the iron ingots input. And then this side can be the reinforced iron plates output. Output, colon, reinforced iron plates. And then we copy those settings. And move them over here as well. Paste them. Doesn't quite work on the words don't quite fit, but fortunately there's the large image, so you'll always know what you mean. And now I also have to attach this up to a power line somewhere. And so everything is powered. Now the only thing is iron ingots come from the right. And they go in here. Let's use Mark III belts. No particular reason why I should or shouldn't use Mark III belts, but here we go. Alright, and then these go... I want to give a bit of vertical space for the output. So that goes there. And then this, we can just yoink out of this. And we'll use Mark I belts for no particular reason. Or Mark II belts, these are. So those go up there. And that's the coal. And we just need to actually run the truck route for the iron, and then that will be done. So we set this to unload. And just confirm there is space to get onto the roads from here. We're not going to get stranded. Transportation. Tractor. Place it down. Open the crafting bench, please. Hello? Alright, I can drive the tractor. And I can open the crafting bench. Great. Alright. So that gets fuel. And then we start recording. We unload there. Drive along here onto this road. And I think it's just this way. Alright. There should be a big sign for it. Alright, I see it in the distance. Let's not miss a turn. It is this road. We go down here, we take a U-turn. We hop into one of the outputs. And hope we grab the right one. Oh, please. Alright. I see activity on this one. So we go in there. We load them up. We loop around and out. And then we go this way. And what? There wasn't anything there. All right, we missed our turn. We're gonna have to edit the route afterwards to fix some of those weird things that happened. Now we go along here. We get to this intersection. We do a nice little U-turn. And in. Alright. Now let's head over here. There were two spots where things went wrong. One was this corner, where I mysteriously went up for no apparent reason. And I really hope that it makes the turn properly, and I'm somewhat pessimistic about that, but it'll probably be fine. And the other thing was over here at this corner, I believe, where I had to... Yeah, I got stuck in traffic and I had to wait. Other than that, everything went smoothly. So now we hop on over here. And enable autopilot, hide path nodes, save that path as iron for rip. And off you go. Alright. It's moving, apparently. It's doing something. It seems to have blown right past the station. Alright, I don't know what he's trying to accomplish, but hopefully it works out. I'm gonna follow him around and see if he has any problems along the way. So the biggest cause for concern is that one turn where I got sent flying into the air for no apparent reason. He might get confused and try to, like, cut the corner or something. Alright, so this is one of the corners where I had to do some editing. He is not going to stop here for 3 seconds, right? Right. Good. Alright. Now he comes in here. Picks up some iron, and also... Apparently I did plan ahead, and this is a fuel stop. Good. I was worried I was going to have to add that in. Alright. It has grabbed a large quantity of iron. Hello, how are you? I'm good. Thank you for the follow. We have just made a reinforced iron plate factory, and we are following this tractor as it makes its way with the iron ore to make that actually happen. Alright, does any funny business happen at this intersection? No, he takes it perfectly. Fantastic. Alright, cool. Weird things happened there while I was recording. Seems like it's gone fine. Play any other games beside this? Yes, I play Magic the Gathering on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 5. I play Satisfactory Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 2 to 5. So, yeah. That's... those are the two main games that I stream. here. And it starts deploying the iron ingots. Cool. Are you new on Twitch? Relatively new. I mean, I've been going for a good several months at this point. Alright. That intersection could have been a cause for concern, but nothing bad happened. It's great to see. Alright, now... is this running successfully? Alright, that's all looking good. Waiting on this to produce steel, of course. Hold on, this... Alright, I did think I had to make that belt mark too. Good for me. Yeah, okay. Kind of saw that one coming. Alright, so. We have steel producing. And it seems like we might have manifold problems here. That is fine. We don't really need this supply of reinforced iron plates super urgently anyways. Just a thing that is nice to have, really, so that we can say we did and not have to rely on the old factory for it. This is going at 100%. $250 screws a minute. That is a ridiculous amount of screws for one machine. But seems like everything is working. I'd just like to see some reinforced iron plates on this belt so that I can know for sure. I'm seeing plates and I'm seeing screws. Alright, yep, reinforced iron plates coming on out. So now I just have to hook that up to the thing that they're hooked up to, which... Are they even hooked up to dimensional storage over there, or was I relying on the super old factory for that? I think I might be relying on the super old factory for that. Alright, so that is the output. And that belt comes along this way. And into transportation there. Which is the reinforced iron plates factory, correct? Alright. Now, I will use a blueprint that I made ages ago and have never had cause to use, which is my sync plus dimensional storage blueprint. So we get this all sealed off. I'm going to get outside so I don't seal myself off with it. And let's see here. Where would that be? Storage plus sync. Alright. Let's figure out where this needs to be lined up to. Alright, so the inputs and outputs are on this side, so I want... Yeah, okay, so I want to rotate this to face that way. And then I guess move it in. These signs are going to be in the way, huh? Something I hadn't foreseen the exact details of when I was preparing this. Alright, so in that case, I'll even have this rotated around this way. And place it in. And attach it down to the power. And then we find this is the reinforced iron plates belt. So let's get a smart splitter in there. Center any left overflow, I guess. So then that, once the entire what's it called? Once the whole truck stop is filled, this will not clip straight through the wall like the horrific monstrosity. It will go in there. And then some will be sunk, the rest will be sent to dimensional storage. Alright. Is this... I know I've just set it up. Is it producing at maximum capacity? Let's check. Or at least near to it. It looks like we're getting more screws than we need and not as many plates as we need. So that should... the manifold should resolve itself pretty quickly, I think. Actually, I can just run in here, grab a couple stacks of coal that we have to spare, just to make sure. And then the truck stop is over here. Grab a couple spare stacks of iron ingots. And okay, that's full. That's full. That's full. So the thing we're short on is steel ingots. And I can fix that, sort of indirectly. So if I put steel beams in there, so yeah, I fill that up with steel beams, and I fill that up with steel beams. Yeah, just fill up every last inch of this thing with steel beams. Now this will stop accepting any more steel ingots than it strictly needs. You can do the same thing here with iron plates. Throw some of those guys in there. Throw some of those guys in there. And then I guess go downstairs and do the same thing down there. And then the manifold should be full and all should work. Where is this door? It's over here. So you get a stack of plates. Do I even have screws? No, I don't have screws in the dimensional storage anyway. Alright, so we have artificially filled the manifold. Which means this should be producing at 100%. And then we're going to have to come back and check a little while later to see if it still is. Also, where on earth is the door? There it is. Alright, so that is that. Reinforced iron plates are now being produced and eventually will wind up in dimensional storage. That's going to take ages, of course. It's going to take a very long time for this entire truck stop to fill. That's the outgoing one, right? Actually, is it even working? I've seen a whole bunch of reinforced iron plates go in. Oh, it's doing the annoying thing, right? Where it has to fill up all the various belts going out as well. And it looks like it's most of the way done with that, so we should see... Okay, yeah, so it's most of the way done filling these up. And then once it has, then it can start filling the truck stop, and once the truck stop is filled, then it'll go up to the dimensional storage, and then once the dimensional storage is filled, then it will go into the sink. And that's configured properly. The sink is on. I have 56 coupons. Let's print those. Why not? What was that crazy gap there? Hard to say. But yeah, this is looking like it might be around 15 a minute. And this canister return is looking very intimidatingly large. And is it working, though? Alright, so this is almost filled. And in fact, it looks like it might end up being entirely filled by the time this wave comes through. And then once that happens, this will start filling. These might need to be industrial storage containers, maybe. Alright. Conveniently, that wave has passed right before this started filling. And is the same thing up here? I assume this is in the same position. No, this one is still mostly empty because I think I used smart splitters to prioritize the lower levels. Can't remember. So I'd like to see if this works properly. Speaking of things working properly, we still have a lot of iron ingots being sunk. Is that because this is full? No. Oh. Shoot. Yeah, I made a horrible mistake with the way I set up this sink. Off. So... yeah. It needs to be overflow from before it goes into this system. Yeah, it needs to be overflow from before it goes into the truck stop. So let's just get a smart splitter there. And bring you up and in. And tear that apart. And there you go. And left overflow. Alright, and now we can turn that back on. And should be fine now. We are no longer sinking every single iron ingot we produce. We are now going to fill up this truck stop first. Alright, I see more canisters coming in. Alright, so if we look at this level here, so this is about to fill, and then once it does, this will start filling. Alright, so this is up to 100, and now this fills. But as it fills, it will unfill. Hold on, I'm trying to think. So this is getting all of the ingots from one of these belts. Is there any way of guaranteeing that this works? I think so. If all of the ingots get prioritized into just this belt, then the only stockpile we would have would be this one, right? Like, assume it mostly ignores the top stockpile for whatever reason, as it seems to be doing. Then this would be filled and that one would be empty. No, I think this works. I think this should work. Yeah, this is empty again. Now, it has to be able to... It has to be... This storage needs to be large enough to manage all of the storage in the entire system that isn't currently here. So I think I might end up making this an industrial storage container. But it should probably be fine. Maybe I will use these and add the sink on the back like I was planning to. So let's do that. Let's get some space over here. And now if everything fills up, it will at least be sunk. Assuming I can find a power pole to attach that sink to. Which I can quite easily. Alright. Let's see. It is 5 o'clock, technically 4:59. I think we're going to end the stream. Actually, let's just look at this and see what happens. So that fills up the last bit of that. And then it overflows into this, which is staying stable at 21 because it's also being output at the same time. Now, I would really like for this to wind up empty after all was said and done. This is up to 24. It looks like technically this is getting one through every so often. I think I just saw it nudge. But the plan does seem to be working. Like, this is full. We have a massive stockpile. But this isn't filling as much. Okay, now this is filling again. Just the last bit. And now this is up to 67. And hopefully it will empty. Alright, but yeah, we're going to end the stream here. It's... What freaking day is it? Is it Wednesday? Yeah, it's Wednesday. So I will be back here tomorrow playing Magic the Gathering from 2 to 5. And then after that, I will be playing Satisfactory again. Also from 2 to 5 as usual. And what are we going to be doing on Friday? Probably just adding in more production lines to the new city and further abandoning the old city. And so yeah, make sure to come around if you're